So I think you can guess what this video is about. I've done so many on the subject already, and that's because it is a huge story in my opinion, and it is a story that many people are trying to suppress and dismiss. For example, so far on my channel I have counted 17 faceless anonymous YouTube accounts telling me to delete my videos on him or they will report my channel. And these accounts are all using nearly the same wording when they threaten me on here. And when I pin their comments, they disappear. So make of that what you will. But regardless, I will not be threatened into deleting videos. It doesn't work like that. I do not bow to threats. So anyway, as we all know, the guy at the centre of all this is Hugh Edwards. And in an astonishing twist, the guy was outed by his wife, and he is in a mental health hospital being treated for severe depression, and he's likely to be there for the foreseeable future. But apparently, when he comes out or when he feels better, he will address everything. In another odd twist, the Sun newspaper, which brought these allegations, have said even though they have a dossier on Hugh Edwards and the allegations made against him, they will not be printing anything about him for the time being. The investigating police force have said there's no criminality being committed, and both the Sun newspaper, and I use the term newspaper loosely by the way when it comes to the Sun, and I can't believe I've been defending them on Twitter. Look, they weren't the ones who named Hugh Edwards. It was other people, and it was his wife. All they did was bring the allegations, and they haven't backed down completely, so remember that. So both the Sun newspaper and the police have backed off to allow the BBC to conclude its own investigations. And in an even more disgusting twist, the woke folk, the Luftwaffe on social media, they're defending this guy to the hilt. Now, the main allegation here is that he swapped illicit photographs of someone who was 17 years old. I think there's like 3 or 4 people who have come out and made these allegations against him. And just for the record, the parents of the initial accuser, they never made a penny from this story. The Sun didn't pay them, and anyone else for that matter, they never made a penny. They were just concerned that the money he was paying, well, allegedly paying now, to their son was helping to fuel his crack cocaine addiction. And they wanted that to stop. So they went to the BBC first, and then when it was obvious they weren't going to do anything, they went to the Sun. Now, people questioning why they didn't go to the police. Well, let's just say the police in Rotherham didn't take anyone's concerns very seriously, did they? So I'll leave that with you. Now, according to this dossier by the Sun newspaper, quite a few BBC personnel have come out with complaints of bullying behaviour by Hugh Edwards. And I knew, folks, when the first accusation came out, and this sort of sordid business, it always goes deeper. There is always more than one victim, and there's always more than one type of wrongdoing. You know, wrongdoing doesn't have to be illegal, but it's wrongdoing nonetheless. The guy held a very high, central and prestigious position in the BBC. He was a rich fella. He was using his money, allegedly, to pay young people for illicit photographs. He even allegedly broke COVID rules, despite the fact that he was tweeting photographs of himself wearing a face mask with the Welsh flag on it. God knows why you would want a Welsh flag or any flag on a bloody face mask. But he was being confronted by people, he was saying, that told him to take his mask off, and he gave him the bum's rush. So he was showing people what a good little lockdown sheep he was, and yet allegedly during the lockdown he went and visited one of these people, one of these young people he met on a dating app. So here we have a wealthy man abusing his position and using his money to get what he wanted. Now, because Hugh Edwards is a Remainer, he works for the BBC, a Welsh nationalist, and generally a lefty, he gets a free pass. Because I can guarantee you, if Hugh Edwards was a Brexiteer or a member of the Tory party, the lefties would be all over him like blue bottles on shit, I guarantee you, folks. And bearing in mind also the youngsters he paid money to for lewd photos of them. They were younger than his own kids. And this is what your television licence fee was going on, folks, so remember that as well. Now, regarding Hugh Edwards' mental health, I'm not a psychiatrist and I'm not a doctor, but something definitely smells off with this business. I mean, okay, depression and other mental illnesses that are similar are very serious and very real conditions, but they can't be allowed to be an excuse to behave like this and do what he did. And from my 11 years experience of locking up criminals, you would be surprised how many of them, once they get sent down from court into jail, insist that they have mental health problems. And they will even self-harm as well in order to get to the hospital. Anything to delay getting to prison. And people like that generally get depressed after they get caught. We don't know when Hugh was admitted to that mental health hospital, but I suspect it's generally around the time that this story broke. And I'll be honest, folks, this stinks to me of someone who knew what was going to happen. He realised the significance of what he did, and so he's pulled this card, hoping for an easy time. And his colleagues, well, some of them, if not most of them, at the BBC and elsewhere in the media, they're all falling for it. If only we could all play the mental health card to get away with sordid behaviour. And even if what he did didn't turn out to be illegal, there's still the moral standing of the fella because of who he is and what he did. His wages came from the taxman and the people who paid the TV licence fee. He covers Trooping the Colour, well, used to cover Trooping the Colour, now every year. He covered the King's coronation, and he covered Her Late Majesty the Queen's funeral. He is literally the voice of the BBC. And yet we know he stated that he had depression since the early 2000s. And if that's the case, why did the BBC keep this man in such a prominent position? Like I said, there's so many questions here. And before I finish this video, I just want to point out a similarity between Hugh Edwards and Philip Schofield's situations. Both the media and celebrities, fellow famous people, they all came out in sympathy and admired Philip Schofield for coming out as gay that time on the This Morning sofa. And they're doing exactly the same thing to Hugh Edwards. No one is giving an afterthought to their families and wives. Why is that? And like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm no psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor, but I'm not buying what Hugh Edwards is selling. And that's not illicit photos, by the way. So there we go. That's my video. Hope you like. Please let me know what you think in the comments. And until the next time, Roger Trout.